Hello everybody. So I wanted to do another blog, I suppose, about Tim Paine, and this is based on the fact that today, as I discovered, he's actually returning from injury and he's still off injured due to a neck injury. And he was meant to go back to play today, just a week to go before the Test series of the Ashes, and due to rain he couldn't play. And look, I say generally speaking, if somebody's first game is just a week before a major 5-test series, that would be very risky as far as injury is concerned. And I mean, if they're an important player, and I guess the captain, you might make that risk. You might say, all right, well, I suppose you've recovered well enough. But, you know, it can take 2 or 3 weeks. You've got to get back into match practice, all that sort of stuff. It's meant to be playing a club game today, so it wasn't a game for Tasmania or anything like that. Just a little club game. But so I think it's too close to the Test series myself. And as I think I said in my last post, I think Tim Paine on merit isn't really, well, he's not the best keeper in the country at the moment. Now, while he may well have been when he took over as Australia's Test keeper in 2017 or 18 or whenever it was, he probably was for a year or so after that, which again surprised me because I wasn't aware of how good he'd become. I don't think he is now, and I think the best Test keeper is probably Alex Carey, and I think he's a considerable amount above Tim Paine. Now, obviously what happens with wicket keepers is that each state pushes for their own state player. Whoever their state wicketkeeper is, that's the one that they think everybody else should like. So you have people like a Josh Inglis and can't even think of who else there is out there. I mean, obviously there's still Matthew Wade, who kept wicket really well for Australia in the T20 World Cup. And in fact, as far as dismissals were concerned, he was the number 1 wicketkeeper. And I know that's a statistic that maybe is due to the type of bowlers Australia had and whatever, but he did really well. And I don't think we should really be so down on Wade because, I mean, I know that Ian Healy criticised him, but then again, Ian Healy wasn't that good a keeper. And so I think taking one person's perspective on that, and that was a perspective that pretty much ruined Wade's career. It wasn't anything that Wade did, it was Healy's comments about it, and which is really unfair, but it is just the nature of wicketkeeping that's how it goes. Tim Paine stuffed up but wasn't criticised for it, so his reputation didn't get damaged. Brad Haddin let go so many byes and missed so many catches, and yet he wasn't criticised for it, so he isn't regarded as a bad keeper, even though perhaps he should be. This is the nature of wicketkeeping, that it is a very polarised, very subjective way of describing it. I mean, we could say that Bangladesh's Mushfiqur Rahim is one of, or was, he's not even a wicketkeeper anymore nationally, but he was one of the worst going around. And yet Bangladeshi swore by him. We had Andrew Flower, when he played for Zimbabwe, was absolutely horrendous. He was a great batsman but a terrible keeper, and yet Zimbabweans swore by him. So there is a sense of loyalty about whoever is picked as your own keeper, and of course that loyalty can flip on its head and become disloyalty. But this creates the problem, isn't that, you know, I even go there and I often don't support whoever is my state keeper. I mean, I suppose technically I'm Victorian and I've got Tasmanian, and maybe I'm not really connected to a particular state, and maybe that means that I can give a fairer assessment than most people. But I'm often criticised as being biased one way or another, even though I don't really think I am. But that's something that, because the other people are so biased, wicket-keeping is the one spot that is just incredibly biased, more than any other position. But with that being said, I think that Alex Carey is in a position now where he probably should have been in that squad. I had him in my squad. Now the people that made the squad didn't put him in there, but I think they should have. And I think that with Paine still not able to go back to match practice, I don't think we can justify Paine being in the first test squad. Now I don't think that the texting thing, I think that shouldn't have cost him his captaincy. But now that it has, or he's resigned in relation to it, and we've had Cricket Australia now saying they would have fired him had that happened under their watch, the current group. With that in mind, I think that he's effectively fired. And I think that if you look at how similar situations have been handled, usually when a captain is fired, they're at least for a little while taken out of the side. We've seen that all around the world. And I think it is justifiable at this stage of his career to take him out, and I think that Tim Paine could perhaps consider resigning or retiring entirely. I think he's 36 years old, and that's usually an age when international cricketers retire. They're usually about 35 or so. So he's probably a year past when most of them would have retired. And I think this situation may have pushed that forward a little bit, and maybe he'd hoped to stay on for another year or two. But I think, had he decided not to retire or not to resign the captaincy, I think that, he could have been in the squad. Might have been a bit contentious, but, we could have had that. Because he's decided to do the team thing and not let it be about him. And that's probably the right thing to do. But, look, I can't see him in the squad myself. I know he's in the squad, but I would withdraw him. And I would put in, Alex Carey. I can't see any other real option. I would put Alex Carey in there as keeper, not as captain. There's no way that I'd have him play in his first test suddenly being captain. Well, we've got Pat Cummins, and I think Pat Cummins should be given the test series. Given the 5 tests without question about it. And who would be named as vice captain? I think it has to be Marnus Labuschagne. Can't say his name. He has to be vice captain. So that doesn't necessarily mean that Pat Cummins will stay as captain. And I think during the series we can then have some discussions about who could become the more full-time captain. Now, if Alex Carey does really well as keeper, he could perhaps even be in contention. I think he's got a good enough head on his shoulders, and he's quite clearly, to me, the best keeper in the country. And I think he even was when Tim Paine stepped up. And I think he's proven himself. So I'd certainly hand the test debut to Alex Carey from South Australia. I have really no connection with South Australia, but anyway. Pat Cummins as captain for the 5 tests. And then what we do after that, as far as the permanent captain, I don't know. I think there is an avenue to have Steve Smith on, but I think it needs to be done slowly. Like I said before, I don't think Steve Smith deserved to lose his captaincy, let alone his position in the side, let alone be banned for a month in relation to what Cameron Bancroft did with the ball tampering. But the fact that happened now means that we can't just put him straight back into the top job. I think it'd be foolish and create too many problems if that happened. So I think Pat Cummins has to lead for this series, and after that, or perhaps during this series, we can look at whether it stays as Pat Cummins for the foreseeable future, or whether we go to Marnus Labuschagne, whether we can trust that his form will stay good, which is a big question mark, because I don't think we can really trust that. It might be, but it might not. Or whether we go with a solid Steve Smith, who was a great captain and whose form certainly justifies that level of support. And I think they're the 3 main options. I mean, I see Alex Carey as a bit of a dark horse as captain, presuming he gets the position as keeper. But I do think that moving forward, it would be a good idea to have Steve Smith back as captain. But I think we need to have that transition put in place so that it doesn't happen straight away. So we give Pat Cummins these matches, and maybe even they say to Pat Cummins, you've got the job for as long as you want it. And because I think they know that injuries and strain on the body will mean that he won't be able to do it for forever. And at that point, then perhaps we can transition into perhaps Steve Smith, or go to Marnus Labuschagne. And I think they're the options. So certainly, starting point, Pat Cummins, these 5 tests, that's an automatic thing. And Alex Carey back in the test side, or back in the test side, making his debut. I wouldn't play Paine. I don't think we can. I think that'd be far too risky. Now, that doesn't mean they won't, but I don't think they should. And I think we might hear an announcement in the next few days that Tim Paine has retired from Test cricket. But anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, bye-bye.